Hello everyone, my name is Jongshan Lee and you can call me just Jay. I'm a lawyer working with Advocate for Public Interest Law, also known as APIL. My organization supports refugees and detained foreigners through legal assistance and advocacy. We are also a proud member of the Korea Refugee Rights Network, or KRRN, which unites NGOs committed to supporting refugee rights in Korea. Today, I'd like to share the challenges refugees face here, along with APIL's key cases and accomplishment. First of all, let's start with the refugee acceptance rate in Korea, very low. In 2023, it stood at only 1.5%, slightly down from 2% the previous year. To put it in perspective, among the nearly 6,000 cases that completely reviewed, only 108 people were recognized as refugees. Considering there were almost 19,000 applications, this low rate highlights just how difficult it is for refugees to be accepted. That 108 includes people who gain refugee status through not only governmental review, but also family reunification and resettlement. So if we focus on those recognized specifically through the refugee status determination procedure, we call it RSD procedure, only 37 were approved, and with 6 more recognized through long litigations to overturn their rejections. These low numbers show how limited the chances are with the official RSD process in Korea. These numbers shows reluctance. Although Korea was the first in Asia to pass a Refugee Act in 2013, it's still criticized for not fully meeting international standard. This bar shows the application numbers and request numbers to compare. So while the government has signed the Refugee Convention and created the Refugee Act to comply with it, there is still a huge reluctance to fully uphold the obligations tied to refugee protection. So in those circumstances, APIL is working hard to address these gaps. One of our core goals is to make the arrest process fairer and more transparent, ensuring that people eligible for refugee status receive the protection they need. This involves guiding refugees through legal, language, and cultural barriers, providing them with full legal support with no fee, and advocating for their right in the complicated RS system in Korea. For your information, refugee cases here in Korea are some of the most complex legal cases. Even with nearly 10 years of legal practice for me, I still find them uniquely challenging. They require explaining to judges about international laws and theories with a bunch of the country of origin information, we call it COI, while conveying refugees' often harrowing experiences with less evidence. So it calls for both solid legal skills and a deep understanding of our client perspectives. Despite the challenges, APIL is committed to this work. Even if success rates are very low, we believe that every small victory can make a big difference, not only for those seeking protection, but also for those whole system. Even each cases bring us closer to a fair RSD process in Korea and moving the system closer to international standard of refugee protection. So let me share some recent positive news. As of this October, APIL has won 22 court cases for refugees from countries like Egypt, Russia, Nigeria, China, Uganda, and Ethiopia. And this is significant because, as we see, only a small number, just 1 digit, of cases succeed each year. These victories include typical refugee cases and as well as cases of people detained at airport. Let me show some breakdown. Among these cases, 13 were asylum cases where previous denials were overturned in the court, and 9 involved airport detainees who had been trying to apply for asylum. Every win offers legitimate protection to these people and also hope to others still waiting in a similar situation. And among them, one important case involved a Nigerian applicant we call Mr. A. Mr. A is a member of the IPOB, Indigenous People of Biafra, a group in Nigeria advocating for Biafra's independence. The Nigerian government actively targets IPOB members worldwide, putting Mr. A at serious risk. Despite this, his applications for refugee status in Korea were denied multiple times until appeal stepped in. According to the various COI, country of origin information, IPOB members worldwide are subject to intense threat, including surveillance, illegal detention, and violence. Mr. A knew he would face persecution if he returned to his country, but proving his case here was too challenging, since he had little evidence, and was not a high-profile member of IPOB. Despite his being active since 2014, almost 10 years of experience, but his applications were rejected 4 times, even with testimonies from other IPOB members. Eventually, after lengthy procedures, both the district court and high court ruled in his favor, and the Supreme Court confirmed his refugee status, affirming that even IPOB members without prominent roles but having passionate activities with a long membership period could face persecution, making him eligible for refugee status. So this decision not only represents a major win for Mr. A, but also gave hope to others in similar circumstances, like lots of enthusiastic activists in Korea, but not having a remarkable position and enough evidence, and including hundreds of IPOB members in Korea. And this case highlights the barriers many applicants face and shows that reapplications are often a necessary last resort rather than an abuse of the system. So low recognition rate, just 1%, mean that the deserving cases often get overlooked. So some of applicants must reapply in the hope of being reviewed again. This kind of case also support our work with the Korea Refugee Line Network to counter government policies that aim to restrict reapplications. Since the refugee law enactment in 2013, applications have grown to nearly 20,000 each year. With a low acceptance rate, just 1 or 2%, many people are forced to reapply, which the government views as an abuse of the system. However, as we discussed, reapplications are often essential for many cases seeking fair consideration, because Korea's system is very restrictive, with many applicants only receiving recognition after multiple appeals or lengthy court cases. So these reapplications are not about abusing the system, but reflect the high barriers in place. However, recently, the government has tried to propose stricter screening measures to disqualify certain reapplicants. So CORIN and APIL have been actively pushing for fairer processes and challenging this proposal, testifying that, for example, Mr. A case is one of the reasons why the government should not disqualify the application of refugee status. In this way, each successful case not only brings protection to individuals, but also contribute well to the push for the systemic change. Beyond the case accepted, 22 cases accepted, we are currently handling many more, including cases for refugees from Afghanistan, Myanmar, Russia, Sudan, and Ethiopia. Among them, I'd like to share with you refugee cases from Afghan. When the Taliban took over Afghanistan again in August 2021, the Korean government evacuated around 390 Afghans, including their family members who had worked for Korean agencies. However, their other children, even though they were young, early 20s, and living with their parents, were left behind, as the government did not classify them as evacuees. So luckily, some of these older children eventually made it to Korea and applied for refugee status here, but the government denied their applications, mainly asserting that they had no direct persecution there. And furthermore, the Immigration Office also rejected the application of Hazaras minorities and women, long targeted by the Taliban, arguing that they could instead live safely in neighboring Iran or Pakistan. So APIL is representing some of these individuals, working with the UNHCR to provide an accurate picture of the risks they face. To ensure victory and correct the wrong stance on Afghan refugees, APIL has been collaborating closely with UNHCR. For instance, we recently requested the court to verify object information in the way of getting a response from UNHCR about the persecution faced by Hazaras, women, and children having their parents who worked for foreign government in Afghanistan. And this was actually coordinated with UNHCR before the request to the court above, and as APIL and UNHCR had also done in Mr. A's case. Each of these cases highlight the urgent need for comprehensive reform in Korea's RSD system. The low recognition rate and restrictive policies created a significant barriers for refugees here, often forcing them to navigate multiple applications to have their cases reconsidered. So APIL's advocacy and some legal victories showcase that even within a challenging system, change is possible, underscoring that the importance of having fair and transparent process for all applicants. This is the last page. Still, APIL remains committed to pushing for a more inclusive and just system for refugees. And by collaborating with organizations like UNHCR and Korean, APIL is working to ensure that Korea's RS system aligns more closely with international standards. Through this partnership and sustained effort, APIL aims to make South Korea a place where refugees feel safe and welcome. Thank you for listening, and I deeply appreciate your interest in refugee issues. Thank you.